Well, hi everybody. Welcome to today's episode of The Feed, coming to you live from Fairygodboss's headquarters in New York City. I'm Liv, I'm the Associate Editor, and today I'm being joined by my dear comrade, Mary.
Hello everyone, I'm so excited to be here and talk all the hot topics with y'all.
All the hot topics, gonna dish them on out. Okay, so to start with, the feed is, again, it's really just this space for us to get to elevate and unpack, as it were, some of the really cool conversations that are happening within the Fairygodboss community. And one conversation that definitely took off was in relation to the Oscar nominations, which were released last week. And we had Megan Fisher asked, Oscar nominations are out, what do you think? Megan said that she thinks Slate put it well. Does the Academy think Little Women directed itself? Where is Greta's nomination? And I know that that is a point of view shared by us both, Mary.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Definitely, and I love how Megan put that, like, seriously, who directed Little Women? They got nominations for so many other things, and then Greta was just snubbed, which, as we were talking about earlier, is perhaps not that unsurprising when you look at only 5 women in the history of the Academy. I believe this is the 92nd annual award, have been nominated, and we were just discussing that only one has won, and that was in 2009. So still have a long way to go with the Academy.
I don't know. I think that's totally adequate representation. I don't know what you're talking about. I think that, so I guess if we want to start with talking about Greta specifically.
Lots of feelings around Greta.
Lots of feelings around Greta. I think that in a lot of ways, the Best Director award has the most weight in some respects, because you're saying that, like, this is somebody whose singular vision for the film, they like touch all parts of, it's really like their creation at the end of the day more than anyone else's. And
true.
To like struggle with representation within that category so specifically, not to say that representation is faring much better in other categories, but it does feel a little weightier within the director category.
I totally agree. And you're saying that, you know, some of these, to your point about visions, some visions are more important than others or better articulated than others. And I just don't understand how one film, truly like Little Women, can be nominated in so many other categories and then just this one big one not be represented at all, which is really disappointing, to say the least.
Yes.
But I do think there are other disappointments too.
Oh yes, let's not stop short at that one.
Outside of Greta, who I know, if you haven't seen the film, go see Little Women. It's amazing and so delightful and just such a great movie, and she was, you know, severely robbed from being nominated, in my opinion. But I was also surprised to see Us didn't really break through at all, which I think maybe, you know, I saw it earlier in the year and didn't really realize that it was a 2019 film until I started seeing that it got snubbed as well, and I was really disappointed in that. Did you happen to see it?
Well, I have not actually seen Us yet,
it's really
which was like part of the reason why I had some trepidation around seeing it at the time. But I know that Lupita was seen as being like a true contender to be nominated, and to, I think Angie made the point as well that out of 20 different possible spots to nominate performers, only one person was a woman of color or a person of color. And the fact that that was for Harriet Tubman also, like, they couldn't acknowledge anyone else outside of this one, like, a little bit on the nose, like, we have to check this box. I just think that's pretty wild.
I think so, and I think, why it's important that people should care about this, about representation, and people get, the snubs and people get upset or whatever, is because representation really does matter, and who you're honoring in these awards has a real impact on how people can view themselves. And if you're not seeing someone up on a screen who looks like you or sounds like you or maybe comes from a similar background, it's a lot harder to envision yourself doing that. And I think using Greta as an example for director is really a good one to use, because if you're a little girl who dreams of directing movies but you don't ever see female directors, how are you supposed to know that's a viable option for you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think on the one hand, there are a lot of people who think that this is just a perpetual media cycle that we enter into at this time of year of the snubs and, does it actually matter or is it arbitrary? And I think that it absolutely does matter, because as you said, representation does matter, and it also becomes this self-fulfilling continual prophecy when the films that are awarded and recognized then speak directly to the next crop of films that will be made and
Totally.
who will be put in a position of directing those films.
So true.
And it's just the fact that the Academy 4 years ago made this whole announcement about the fact that they were going to make efforts to diversify, and even still, within having made these efforts to diversify, I think
Still
I
not
saw 68% male and 84% white. And I think that just speaks to, it's crazy to me the number of institutions that we still have in place that are pulling the strings behind what stories we tell and what stories we see as worth telling. And out of, for Best Picture, 9 films, 6 of them are super male stories. They're just
that's true.
Very masculine
I
films.
don't even think about it that way. That's so true, and it's just those demographics that you cite, they're just not even reflective of culture and society at all. So yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Do we want to see?
Yeah, let's see what else is happening on the feed this week.
Let's bop on over. I feel like Mary and I could continue now.
I know, we could talk about movies and the Oscars and what was great and
for the
not
rest
so
of the
great.
day.
For
I'm
the
gonna
rest
clear
of the
my
day.
calendar,
I
actually.
know.
Should we just this can be the rest of our work day. But to move on to the
Yes.
next conversation on the feed.
What do we have here? This is a great one, and something I feel like we see a lot, is work-life balance only for parents. So Anonymous says that she is in her mid-30s and doesn't have kids, but as she's gone through the workforce and gotten older, she's noticed that colleagues who do have families are given more of what she calls a hall pass when it comes to prioritizing their personal life. And again, I think we've seen this conversation pop up a few times. I know my personal belief, but Liv, what do you think?
I think that it's really unfortunate that I think the number of comments that this post received and engagement that it received speaks to this is an experience people still feel like they're having, feeling shut off from work-life balance, permissiveness because they don't have kids. And I think that is carryover from a really heteronormative also idea of what types of relationships we prioritize and institutionally prioritize. And I think that this user was also had the example about wanting to take time off to pick up one of her very good friends from the airport and not feeling like she had as much license to do that as somebody who's leaving work early to go to their kid's soccer game. I think that for a lot of people, and especially people who don't have kids or those traditional family dynamics, your friends are your family, and we should be recognizing and valuing and honoring what that looks like for all kinds of people.
Yeah, mean, I totally agree, and I think if you don't have children or a traditional family, people, regardless of where you're at in life, they have interests in lives outside of work and different relationships that mean different things to them and take priority. And so I think the best employers respect that, and we're really fortunate to work at a company that does. And I think as long as you're meeting your objectives and goals and delivering results for your company, why should it matter what you're taking time off to do? Whether that's going to your kid's soccer game, which is super important, or picking your friend up from the airport, which is equally as important.
Yes. Gotta get home from the airport after all. I also like when we were talking about this before, you made the really astute point that also honoring priorities that aren't relational too, and like feeling like you have the space to do that, because we also aren't defined by our relationships to other people
or work.
Yeah.
I think, people want to work out, they want to take a creative writing class, they want to go to a comedy night, whatever it is. People are multifaceted, and for some people work is their passion, and that's great. For some people it's in the middle, and for some people work is just their job, and they have interests outside of that really, really fuel them and probably make them a better employee at the end of the day when they have something that they're passionate about that helps them restore their energy and creativity.
Totally. It's just better for everyone involved, every facet, for that to be prioritized.
Totally. And it seems like a lot of the women in our community kind of agree that with this overall point that work-life balance shouldn't just be limited to certain priorities, that, a lot of priorities are important and it varies from person to person. I know you had something you wanted to bring up. I can't find the comment though.
Yeah, well, this one I thought was really a good point to make as well, which is somebody saying that as someone whose kids are out of the house now, they are a parent, but their kids are no longer at home, and they feel like they're also dumped on to an undue, unfair degree compared to their coworkers who do have children at home.
No, that's an interesting viewpoint. So I think it's really wide-ranging. Work-life balance is for everyone.
It's for everyone, no matter what your age is.
Exactly.
I thought that this one was this was an anonymous response to this post that I thought was interesting. They say, I absolutely feel like I've been discriminated against in the workplace as a woman who doesn't have kids. This isn't about work-life balance specifically, but I once had a manager who went so far as to say that I was passed up for a promotion because my counterpart had a family to provide for. These attitudes still exist. And I think that's just wild. And to their point, these attitudes absolutely do still exist and are pervasive.
Oh, definitely. It's like the data that says when a man has a family, he'll likely get a raise and a promotion, but women actually lose money when they start families. I can't remember the exact statistics off the top of my head, but that's definitely true, because they're seeing to this community member's point, they're seeing that they have someone to provide for. That's the male viewpoint for promotions and raises, where I guess as women we're viewed as not committed to the job. Like, I'm really confused about that data.
I think it's just like an automatic assumption, which is also not true. Like, I do plan on adopting when I'm in my 40s, but until then I will have many years of workplace life in which I don't have kids. And there are so many different ways of like having a family and creating a life and moving through the world, but I think there's still this automatic assumption that women are just will do those things and will handle those things, whereas when you see a man do it, it's like, let's they should be rewarded for that.
I know, we have to go on to the next topic, but I was actually talking to a good friend of mine, and she admitted that she thinks her partner, her husband, does more than 50% of the parenting. So those dynamics are changing.
Yes, they are. We are like well down that path, I do think. Okay, next conversation.
What is it?
It is a post from Jenna Blair, who says, do you believe in mentorship? Jenna says, I'm constantly hearing advice about the value of mentorship, how to find a mentor, etc. But I'm not sure I buy the buzz. I have plenty of people in my life who've helped support and guide me, but no one who I would officially or formally call a mentor. Am I doing my career a disservice by not having one? Should I continue doing what I am now, which is simply learning from as many people as I can? And if you do believe in mentorship, why?
That is a great question.
Lots of questions. And
Yeah.
I thought this was good for you to speak to, Mary, also, because I know you do have a long-standing mentorship.
Yeah. You know, and I think she brings up like a really good point when she said she has plenty of people in my life who've helped support and guide me, but no one she would officially or formally call a mentor. And I think that distinction is really important to bring up, because I think when people think of mentors, they get really bogged down in this definition of what a mentor-mentee relationship is supposed to be in a professional setting. And it's like, oh, I have to talk to Liv once a month or every quarter, and we have to get coffee. And I don't think that is. I have mentors that I call upon and try and stay in touch with from throughout my career, including my first boss. And I think it's good sometimes just to have that third party outside perspective who cares about you and can give you advice but isn't right there in the trenches with you. Kind of changes their viewpoint. You can also learn from their experience as well. But I do think mentors or personal board of directors or people who are just supportive in your life, whoever that may be, it could be a professor, an old boss, a family friend, just to kind of guide you, maybe make connections for you, give you advice when you need it. But I think people get too pigeonholed into this like formal definition of what mentorship is.
I totally agree with you. I think it's more about like assembling your arsenal of people who are supporters, advice givers. I like what you said about it specifically being people who aren't necessarily down in the trenches with you, because there's a lot of value to be gained and removed, like third-party insight on situations. I think that it's more so about making it a priority to learn and to share with other people, learn from other people. And that can be peer-to-peer mentoring, like a lateral mentorship. It could be learning from somebody who's technically like beneath you, title-wise also.
100%. It kind of goes back to our earlier conversation about representation, right? Like, you want to seek out people who have careers you admire or think you could be interested in doing, and learn from them. And maybe that blossoms into this more official mentorship relationship, or you maybe got some information to realize working in data sounds awesome, or it sounds terrible, based on that conversation.
Yeah, totally. Let's see what some other folks had to say. Megan Fisher, I liked the point that she made, which was that I absolutely believe in mentorship and think it matters for some groups of people more than it does for others, namely for people who aren't historically in a position of power in whatever industry or space they're navigating. Having a mentor can be pivotal. Being mentored by people who look like me at the top of their careers has been huge. So I think also, like, specifically speaking to those identities, feeling like you have a formal mentorship dynamic in place may have added value. But then also in addition to that, I think in line with what we're saying about just being open to mentorship in whatever form it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. And like having those people who you can ask in a confidential, trusting environment about how do I navigate this situation at work, and how have you ever been through this? I mean, that's, when you look at the Fairygodboss community, that's a large reason why we were created was to hear from other women and their experiences and how you navigate with things like maternity leave, work-life balance, finding a mentor.
Finding a mentor, which, fun plug, is something that you can in fact do on Fairygodboss.
Mm-hmm.
We have an official group dedicated to mentors and mentees, which is both a space for finding a mentor and finding someone to mentor. I do within that think it's important to make the point too that, as Jenna was saying, the type of buzz that she hears most is about how to find a mentor, and the onus being on you to go out and seek out those dynamics and relationships. But I think it's just as important, if not more important, for the conversation to be about how do you mentor others once you have ascended in your career, and that being something that you're then going out and doing and scouting out people who could benefit from your expertise and insight. So
Totally.
if you have mentorship to offer, join the official mentee and mentor group on Fairygodboss and share some of your insight and expertise, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, lots of fun things to do on Fairygodboss
Definitely.
and in that group. But I think that probably draws us to a close for today's episode.
Well, this was really fun. Thanks for having me on.
It's been so fun. Yeah, very glad that you joined us today, Mary. We'll be back with the next episode on February 4th. In the meantime, have more conversations with us digitally on Fairygodboss.
Connect with us on Fairygodboss.
Yeah, please do that.